Good evening and a warm welcome to the State of Business on Art Television. I'm Nishani Pigera. As usual, let's take a look at the headlines first. President inaugurates Architect 2018. Sri Lanka ranked 91 in Corruption Perceptions Index. The inaugural session of the annual Architect 2018, one of the most anticipated trade exhibitions in the country, began in Colombo yesterday under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena. The exhibition, which is organised by the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects for the 36th consecutive time, will be held until the 25th of February at the BMICH. This year, more than 290 exhibition stalls and 126 digital screens will be displaying architecture designs at the event. Meanwhile, during the ceremony, 4 architects that made extraordinary contributions in the field of architecture were presented special awards by the President in recognition of their services. Transparency International Sri Lanka, the global movement against corruption, stated that Sri Lanka has failed to show significant improvement in the Corruption Perception Index 2017 released by Transparency International.
The CPI ranks countries and territories by the perceived level of public corruption. Sri Lanka has moved up 4 places from 95th to 91st, although its CPI score has only risen by 2 points from 36 to 38, representing the slow rate of progress. Transparency International Sri Lanka said, being the local chapter of the global movement, they are concerned by the fact that Sri Lanka's current CPI score of 38 was the same score that prevailed in 2014. Meanwhile, speaking about the country's performance in CPI 2017, Executive Director of Transparency International Sri Lanka, Asok Obesekara, stated that Sri Lanka's position in the CPI shows that the anti-corruption drive has limited momentum within the country.
When we look at our 2016 results, which got a lot of media coverage, Sri Lanka was ranked 95th in the world with a score of 36. So the score for 2017 is that Sri Lanka, and this is looking at 180 different countries, Sri Lanka for 2017 is ranked 91st with a score of 38. So what we can see is that the rankings have marginally improved and the score has marginally improved from 36 to 38. The thing that I would highlight right from the outset is the fact that for any change in score to be considered significant, it requires typically a change of 6 points. That is a global measure. But here we have seen a 2-point increase, which is illustrative of the fact that whilst the score has improved, it has improved very slowly, and the improvement is only fair at best. And I think what this also highlights is the fact that the perception of public sector corruption is also stagnant. Now, when we actually think about that for a moment, we realize that on many occasions we see that agencies have been strengthened, but actually has there been much difference in the way in which implementation occurs? That is a key issue that I think many of us have known from before, and that continues to be an issue right now. Given that this is an index that looks at the perception of public sector corruption, when we actually think about the fact that school children and the admitting of school children into a school is something which is fraught with corruption, the issues from before and the issues faced now are still similar. So quite naturally, the perceptions of public sector corruption as well remain largely unchanged. And so the everyday engagement with the state and the fact that corruption still remains an issue is still an issue now, and hence why the perception index score and rank remains in the same area, and there has been no significant change.
Speaking further, the Executive Director of TISL, Asok Obesekara, stated that progressive reforms such as giving citizens the right to freely access asset declarations of public representatives and the passage of the Essential National Audit Bill, which have been stalled by the Cabinet, indicates a lack of bureaucratic and political will.
Looking beyond what we observe looking at the legislative changes, we can see things like the National Audit Bill, which has been delayed for countless occasions. And we have legitimate questions to ask. Why has that National Audit Bill been delayed? Now, we have recently been told that Cabinet has approved the National Audit Bill. But the important thing to see is there are a few key features. And the key feature above all else is, does the Auditor General still have the power of surcharge? And that we have to see when that bill is tabled in Parliament. Because if the surcharge provisions have been watered down, that is very concerning. Similarly, as some of you all will know, more than a year ago, Cabinet passed a plan, an open government plan, which included removing all of the secrecy provisions on asset declarations, so that the public can access and share asset declarations. Now, the problem there is that I have the right to that information, you have the right to that information, but if I share that information with you or you share that information with me, we are liable to a 2,000 rupee fine and or 2 years of rigorous imprisonment. So where have the changes been on things like that, particularly given the fact that Cabinet has approved a plan to actually change that? So this issue around Vatkam Prakasha and the actual opportunity for there to be transformative change through asset declarations, there's no progress at all.
The State of Business will return with more news after this short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching The State of Business. Issuing the National Consumer Price Index for the month of January 2018, the Director General of Census and Statistics, Dr. Amara Satarasinga, said that the year-on-year inflation based on NCPI has declined to 5.4% from 7.3% in December 2017. Contributions to inflation in January 2018 from the food group and non-food group are 4% and 1.4% respectively, whilst contributions of these two groups to inflation in January 2017 were 2.9% and 3.6% respectively, which resulted in a headline inflation of 6.5%. However, when compared to month-on-month changes, NCPI in January 2018 has decreased to 125.8 from 126.6 reported in December 2017. This shows a decrease of 0.8 index points or 0.6 percentage points in January 2018 as compared to December 2017. This month-on-month change was due to the decrease of expenditure value of food items by 0.78% and increase of non-food items by 0.11%. However, the groups of furnishing household equipment and routine household maintenance and alcoholic beverages, tobacco and narcotics recorded very slight expenditure value increases compared to the preceding month. The expenditure value of housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuels, communication and recreation and culture groups remained unchanged during this month. In more news tonight, Jiva Education, the market leader for Australian education consultants in Sri Lanka, has come forward for the first time in Sri Lanka to host the Australian Education Roadshow, which covers 3 distinctive areas of the country: Galle, Colombo and Kandy. The media briefing on this exclusive event was held in Colombo yesterday.
The Australian Education Roadshow is the only expo to cover major areas of Sri Lanka in 3 consecutive days. During the roadshow, representatives and academics of 30 of the top Australian universities will educate and create a platform for Sri Lankan students to choose their higher education path to obtain a globally recognized qualification. The expo will commence on the 23rd of February in Galle, continue on the 24th in Colombo and will conclude on the 25th of February at Kandy. The main aim of this event is to provide wider possibilities in higher education to students all around the island at one of the world's most popular study destinations, Australia.
Most of the education exhibitions in country are Colombo focused exhibitions. We wanted to make a difference. Like Sri Lanka is the country where the economy is booming at the moment. And other than the Colombo, there are a couple of other places which are coming up as the strong economies. and one of them is gold, another one is candy. So when we decided to have our first Australian Education Roadshow, we wanted to make sure that we will have that roadshow in those 3 locations. We were so lucky to get the support from 32 Australian universities and education institutions. And so we are so happy to say that the Australian Education Roadshow is the largest Australian education event which will be held in this year. And also this is the only event where you get the support from the universities as well as the TAFE institution. So you know that in Australia there are universities and also the TAFE institutions and the private institutions. So this roadshow will cover all the education alternatives that students are looking for.
Stocks ended in the red today. Let's find out the details after this break. Welcome back to the show. Trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all share price index dropped 27.19 points to close at 6,571.54, and the S&P SL 20 dropped 13 points to close at 3,722.55. Turnover was 1.5 billion rupees and 37.8 million shares were traded. Up next are the day's forex rates. And that winds up the show for tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you for joining us. Good night.